alongside the College Football Hall of Famer and Randy Cross. Air Force needs help if it wants to get in that title game. All they can do is try to win today.
Yeah, that's the definition of worrying about stuff that's out of their control. And, you know, no one's better than Troy Calhoun of really focusing these guys down. You got to look at one thing, win this game, and number two, you got a chance to win 10 games. Even if you don't play in the conference championship game, you got a chance of winning 10 games.
For UNLV, the Rebels have had a series of near misses, and they've been improving, particularly in the last few weeks.
Yeah, they really have, and a lot of that's been revolving around two things. One has been their defense has improved, and number two, the Chuck Wagon, Chuck Williams.
We have two outstanding runners today. Let's begin with Air Force and Brad Roberts. Our game day playbook brought to you by Twisted Tea.
Brad Roberts is the classic option fullback, guy that's straight ahead, needs that real good quick blocking. But look at the yards after first contact, or just yards after contact, period. This is the one I like. It really hit after a 1 yard gain, and he just keeps on going. And like Williams, if you hit Roberts from the side, you're not tackling him. You will bounce off him.
For UNLV, they have the Chuck Wagon himself, Charles Williams.
Yeah, Chuck Williams is a guy that can run. He can go. He can pop an 80 as easily as he can pop an 8 on you.
He is one of the elite runners in the Mountain West and the country. What are your keys today, Randy?
Well, I want to feature the work truck, the Chuck Wagon for UNLV, and attack the ball. Helmet on the ball. You're going to need turnovers. For the Air Force, well, their real motto, their thing is the diesel. That's their diesel grind, is running the ball, and they're the best in the country. And can they beat you with plan B? And that's the defensive theme. You stop UNLV's run, can they beat you throwing the ball?
That will be one of the grand questions. Troy Calhoun, the head man for Air Force at his alma mater in year number 15, second in Mountain West history in conference victories, trailing only the legendary Rocky Long. In season 2, 2 wins for Marcus Arroyo as he tries to end the year on the right note and show that the build is in progress. He has some star single players, and they are riding the ship at UNLV. Now, UNLV won the toss and elected to take the ball in a game where possessions are at a premium. Air Force, one of the elite, holding on to the football.
Yeah, smart move. Why give Air Force the ball and then not see it for 8 minutes and probably 12, 13 plays of running the ball?
We are at altitude. Decent kick. UNLV will take a shot from the 2. And the ball loose. Air Force pounces inside of the 15-yard line.
Air Force has it.
Turnover on the opening kick, and a short field for the Falcons.
Well, that's a full speed run. You get that ball at the goal line, you're heading up, and now here comes the coverage. Well, that's a 1-2. You had the hit come from the side on the right, and then the hit come the shoulder pad and arm onto the ball and knock that thing out. That was beautiful kickoff return coverage, thinking man first, ball second.
No, Air Force with a short field. They are dynamite when they get the ball and when they're in the red zone.
Oh, it's ridiculous, their percentage of getting touchdowns, and they get anywhere near the goal line, they will just cram it in down your throat. This is one of the better offensive lines in the country, despite all the people that they've played.
Warren Bryant, a quarterback, not Hazik Daniels. And they go with the tailback run and earn about 4, make it 3 to the 11-yard line.
So a little change of pace, getting a different quarterback in there, but Roberts is the featured runner. And really, from a health standpoint, John, coming into this game, you got to figure the two featured running attack people would be Roberts at fullback and whoever played quarterback.
Roberts, the deep man here. John Lee Eldridge at tailback. No DeAndre Hughes. On the ground, Roberts pinballing off contact, spins, and he's down just short at the 1-yard line.
Well, there's a typical Air Force run. You get inside, you start running. Hawk Wimmer, the offensive guard, number 62, highlights a lot of these big runs. he put him on a fullback or put him on a linebacker about 325 yards. Roberts is going to start bouncing off people because they're hitting them from the side, not from the front, because of that offensive line.
Bryan under center. Right back to Roberts, standing up, plows in, touchdown, Air Force.
That's right behind that right side of the offensive line with Wimmer right there, number 62. Look at that right side and the way they just collapse things. Roberts, he's in the end zone before anybody has a chance to even touch him.
That's the team leading 12th touchdown for Roberts. Short field, it takes barely a minute. A fumble on the opening kick return. Now the point after is good from Matthew DePore.
Well, if you were going to draw something up that was negative from the UNLV standpoint, it's philanthropy, helping, giving them a little bit of a help by putting the ball on the ground. You start a game like that, you got to go over to the sideline and start this drawing over. Because look at those blue jerseys moving the white jerseys, and then by the time the guys in white get a chance to hit Roberts, he's standing in the end zone.
And Marcus Arroyo sees himself facing a deficit a little more than a minute into the game. Air Force has now gotten a touchdown in goal-to-go situations 11 straight times, and they have scored on their first possession for the 10th time this year.
Yeah, it's a little bit different here, too, in this triple option style. Air Force uses tight ends, and that was the tight end side on that last one. So you had a tight end, you had Holcomb, and you had Wimmer all collapsing that side for the touchdown.
Steve Jenkins, the return man. Billy Honecker handling kickoff here. And that one whistles end zone for a touchback. Well, knowing the vice grip that Air Force can have on the ball, this puts an even greater charge onto the shoulders of Justin Rogers, who last week was sensational off the bench against San Diego State.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, that 15-21, that was something for this team. And for a team that you concentrate on number 8, you play UNLV, you're worried about Chuck Williams. For Rogers to have that similar kind of game, that's how they compete in this game.
Rogers on the roll, fire sideline, dropped incomplete. Trying to connect with Steve Jenkins there. Rogers was pressed into duty. Cameron Friel was injured. Rogers was the starter to begin the year.
Yeah, he was highly recruited. He'd had an arm issue injury-wise that when you're talking to Coach Arroyo, he said he never really got completely healthy until during this season. And boy, he looked like it last week.
And that injury suffered in high school when Arroyo recruited him hard during his days at Oregon. He went to TCU. And here's the Chuck Wagon's first look as he gets knocked down at the 30 by Alec Mock. And they get 4. So here's 3rd down and 6. What do you dial up?
Well, you'd like to say you could run it with Charles Williams, but I think now they're going to go empty. They may motion back in.
A lot of movement as they bunch tight.
Yeah, I think when you get this bunch, you're going to try to scrape somebody free and cross them.
Rogers with time, fires. Denied at the 33. First man in was Trey Bogg, and he'll be short by a couple as they get 4 on 3rd and 6.
And they did just that. That trips formation. They scraped through the defense, and they got Boggs underneath. But watch the closing on the ball. I mean, you look at their linebackers, you look at safeties for Air Force. When you see them on tape, I tell you what, Bug's a good example. The first tacklers, the percentage of first tacklers, it's got to be about 80%. They do a great job tackling.
Evan Silva to punt. Flag is out. Fair catch wave, but the laundry hit around the 15. We do have a penalty on the field, David Alvarez is our referee. A 38-yard punt with no return. Jake Spiewak handling duties with no Dane Kinnaman.
Illegal numbering on the receiving team, Air Force. They had 2 number 11s on the field. That 5-yard penalty is forced from the previous spot. The yardage is enough for a first down.
So Camby Goff and Spiewak both on the field at the same time. That's a simple mistake there, John. You don't see that very often. I mean, you can't have the same guys on the same special teams unit wearing the same number.
So a faux pas for an Air Force team that is one of the least penalized squads in the country. In fact, these are 2 of the 15 fewest penalized teams in all of the country.
Yeah, and that gives UNLV a little more life with the ball. So nothing wrong with that. Got to take advantage of it.
Rogers working out of the gun. Williams into the backfield. And incomplete on that firm whistle from Rogers, who became the first UNLV quarterback to throw for 300 yards in a game in 3 years in his showing last week. Their offensive line has improved dramatically, cutting down sacks.
Yeah, they really have. And a lot of that's got to go to their offensive tackles. Earlier in the year, the tackles were a detriment, getting a lot of edge rush and edge pressure. And lately, the last month or so, they've done a much better job.
Rogers, man in his face, just floats it out. Able to make a man miss, gets a couple of blocks and veered out of bounds in Air Force territory. Charles Williams as they pick up the first down.
Got a flag down right there where Williams went through a couple of blocks, so it lends you to believe you could have a little holding.
Here in the run, block in the back, offense. On the spot of the foul, still second down.
Either block in the back or a hold, but it happened right there in the screen area. Check it out here as they get out there. Yeah, the block in the back happened right there. The receiver hit the safety right there in the back. Penalty help, and now you've had a penalty hurt really long.
Pocket eroding. Rogers slings it deep. Flag out. Incomplete. Trey Taylor in coverage. Looks like another hold.
Yep. Little bit of a offensive or defensive pass interference.
Pass interference. Defense. Number 7. 15-yard penalty and an automatic first down.
Yeah, Trey Taylor got out there. Working in a man situation. Here's Trey Taylor up here in the top left. You impede like that as you go into a break, that's going to get called every time just because it looks so unusual physically. That receiver's motion changes that much. The official notices that.
Already 2 flags on Air Force. They only average a little less than 5 per game. And denied right at the 50. Richter part of the stop there, only 3.
We usually say when you have a running play that the offensive line gets the running back the first 3 yards. And I think Charles Williams or anybody carrying the ball, once they get those 3 yards, you can't try to bounce sideways. You can't do anything cute. You've got to lower your shoulder and go straight ahead against this defense because they pursue so well.
Against a 4-man rush. Flushed. Off a punt, finds the edge. Angled out of bounds, helped by Bo Richter out of play. He'll pick up 5. Going to be short by a little more than a yard and a half.
Yeah, and every time Rogers has to run, you can almost hear the offensive staff for UNLV holding their collective breath. They're very thin at the quarterback position. We've talked about a little of the history of Rogers' problems injury-wise with that shoulder. He's addressed it. I mean, he's gotten his core and his legs and everything else strong where that's no longer an issue.
So Gio Faolo in motion, the tight end who sets that left edge. And a hard hit, but after the first to the 40, a gain of 5 by Courtney Reese.
Yeah, I've already mentioned a couple of times about this tackling by Air Force's defense. Watch this one coming in from the side. That's a tackle. I mean, that's a form tackle. That's how you send a message to the guy with the ball. That's perfectly clean and extremely well done.
Canby Goff, who had the deflection of the 2-point conversion to seal the win against Nevada. Rogers loading up. Pocket of Rhodes, fires one-on-one, end zone, incomplete. Just a touch too long. He had a touchdown with Steve Jenkins.
Yeah, Jenkins was there. It was 6 points. Just at the very end, he's got to speed up and slide his process. And by having to make that little adjustment, that little scooch over to the left, I think it just threw his throwing motion off enough to affect the accuracy.
That was Ian Castaway in coverage, who only made his first career start last week. Into the backfield on 2nd and 10. Following that left side, Vince Sanford part of the pile. He gets a couple to the 38. Alec Mock in there as well. What do you see in this defense for Air Force?
Yeah, I enjoy watching this defense. I've already mentioned their tackling, which is extremely impressive, but they've been good at multiple styles of offense, frustrating passing teams. They frustrate running teams. You've got a player down on the field, a Falcon.
And we will step aside, 3rd down, when we're back.
College football on CBS Sports Network is sponsored by The Exchange, welcoming home veterans to their exchange shopping benefits. By USAA Insurance, auto renters and home insurance. By Cooper Tire, go with the Coopers. And by Serve Pro, the #1 choice in cleanup and restoration.
The rushing title could be influenced by today. Games beyond today would count toward the rushing crown. Brad Roberts, Charles Williams, 1 and 2 in the Mountain West. And you saw some of the other champs that have come from these programs. Jeremy Rudolph with UNLV, Dominique Dorsey, Chad Hall of Air Force.
And Charles Williams has today. They're not going to a bowl.
3rd and 8, pressure, ball free.
Ball's loose.
And Air Force again. 2nd forced fumble, 2nd recovery by the Falcons as Alec Mock gets his first fumble recovery of the year and another shorter field for the Falcons.
Yeah, watch the protection break down, and it breaks down in the middle. You get pressure like that, and you get pressure that fast coming in your face by the defensive lineman like Jordan Jackson. He got free fast. Man, you get in any quarterback's face like that, there's going to be a problem, especially on his throwing side. Got to protect that ball, though.
College football today. Now we take a look at the college football playoff poll powered by Ram Trucks.
It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks with these championship games and some of these finishers, especially that Bedlam game being played. We'll have an eliminator there.
Troy Calhoun's team, a touchdown after a fumble on the opening kickoff. A fumble by UNLV set up this possession. And yet again, no Zeke Daniels, Warren Bryant at quarterback, and a furious run. Very close to the 1st down marker. Looks to be a little more than 9, could be 10.
You know, normally the fullback is closer to the quarterback. Watch what happens here in the box, the 2 A gaps. That's where they make their hay, right in the middle. A lot of cross blocks going on. But you give Roberts that kind of room in that area, forget it. You're going to be in deep trouble. And he lines up, you know, he's 4 yards off the ball. In most triple option offenses, the fullback's a lot closer.
And there is a hole for Emmanuel Michel. Easily plows for a first down. He gets another 9 yards. And this offensive line has drawn some national attention. A semifinalist for the Joe Moore Award, one of 13 offensive lines in the country on that short list for the best in the FBS.
And I guarantee you there's not another offensive line on that Joe Moore Award list that's played as many people as this Air Force line has.
Starting lineup combinations.
That's a testament to their offensive line coach, Steve Labatsky, the job he's done coaching these young men.
Fullback and the keeper here. And room for Warren Bryan. Gets to the 20, gain of 8. Adam Plant, the stop.
You know, the real difference so far we've had is on the other side from Plant linebacker-wise is Windeman, number 44. We haven't called his name much. Usually you do a UNLV game and you're going to see him on tackles pretty consistently.
And the misdirection has been there. Michelle, again, that deep fullback, not Roberts. And Michelle grinding to the 15, gets about 3.
The grinding is for an offense that goes by that nickname, the Diesel. Grinding is a good way to put it because that's what they do to defenses. They grind them down. They physically wear people out. This is a very quick, very physical, extremely strong offensive line.
This is football. Is proudly supported by Cooper Tire. We have an injury timeout here with a player substitution.
Yeah, change in the offensive line, of course. Like 4 different groups at tack, 4 different groups at guard, and 3 different centers.
Works his back at fullback. He gets fed. Plant latches on, goes for a bit of a ride to the 11-yard line. He gets 4.
And it's not a huge thing, but in the world of running this style of offense, giving that fullback, especially a guy like Roberts, an extra yard and a half to line up in the backfield, it gives him more vision. It gives him more space to see the defense sort of develop and the play develop and the blocks develop. It's really an advantage for Torrey Calhoun's fullback.
Remains a quarterback. We have not seen Hazik Daniels. Ryan's second carry eludes the first couple. Gets suplexed down. The double team gets him at around the 6.
Brought down by Jacoby Windeman.
And Jacoby Windeman gets one of his first denials of the day.
That's one of my favorite wrestling terms, by the way.
The suplex.
Suplex. I always expect to see, Macho Man Randy Savage coming off a rope or something when I hear suplex.
Well, we do get word that Hazik Daniels, starting quarterback for Air Force, is apparently in street clothes and has a non-COVID related illness that has him out today. So his backup, Warren Bryan, on the keeper. That's going to move the chain, so it's 1st and goal.
Yeah, and this is a nightmare situation for UNLV. When you're already down 7-0 and now you're in, 1st and 3 on the 3-yard line against this offense. If you're just playing percentages, the percentages are heavily on Air Force's side. They can lean forward for a yard for the next 3 yards and get a touchdown.
And Roberts looking for his second score of the day. And he swings into the end zone, touchdown. That's a dozen straight TDs for Air Force in goal-to-go situations. And a 2-score lead on senior day.
And they, generally speaking, are not a real eke-it-in type of a team. With this offensive line and the way that they block, they're going to pull, they're going to bring Wimmer around. Then Roberts is going to get met just outside the goal line, but with a 330-pound guard helping to push the defense, Roberts spins right in.
And DeBoer's point after is good. And it all got set up on the free football. Mock able to pounce, set up Air Force in prime position. And 2 turnovers have led to 2 touchdowns in the opening quarter. Network. So there's Zeke Daniels, QB1 for Air Force. No pads, just the jersey, no helmet. Apparently battling non-COVID illness. Did not start. It appears he's not playing today.
Well, he's one of the constants for Air Force, but one of the real constants is Roberts, the fullback, and that offensive line. And they're plowing UNLV right now.
Another deep enough kick for a touchback. And UNLV's offense will get another go. Take a look at our athlete profile, brought to you by Cooper Tire. All-time leading rusher for UNLV, the leading rusher among all active FBS players, and he's a smart cookie too.
Yeah, I mean, keep track of Charles Williams. He's going to line up deep like he is now, about 8 yards off the ball. You'll see him at wing, you'll see him in slot, you'll see him motion. Going to give the defense all the looks they can handle.
He gets the ball here. Purposeful pause, gets roped down after only a couple, make it 3. Alec Mock part of that stop, part of history. Williams, who had 38 carries to break Ickey Wood's program record in a single game, a record that had stood since 1987. Woods had 37 carries a couple of times that year. Charles Williams went off 266 yards. Now, you pointed it out during break. Justin Rogers has been sped up and lit up a bit by this defense. Able to convert here right to the marker and get the first down. Gain of about 7 to Steve Jenkins, the favored target, with seemingly no Kyle Williams.
And, John, he needs some of those. He needs some confidence passes. The little outs, the little slants, just some good, quick passes. Get himself in a little bit of a rhythm. And, man, he needs some inside-out protection. He's got to have a pocket he can step up into. He's been able to do it a couple of times, but not consistently.
Nice motion from Courtney Reese. Rogers surveys. Throws as the hit comes. And the pressure is there. This Air Force defense, there it's Canby Goff who brought it. They pressure dropbacks almost 40% of the time, top 10 in the country.
Well, that was a decently protected thing, but they only had 2 receivers out in routes. So you had 4 people deep in coverage, so they covered those 2 guys up pretty good. And Rogers didn't have any choice. He had some early protection. There wasn't any real early pressure. But when you keep that many guys in, you pay a price, and that's not enough receivers.
Look out for Ziel Griffin, receiver bottom of the screen. Instead, right back to Charles Williams, who has very little room. Bug helps him to the sideline. It's only a couple of yards there. 3rd down and 8.
That's something pretty consistent when you go against this defense of Air Forces. If you choose the short side, you better have some pretty good power working for you. Because their ability, like I've said a couple of times, their ability to pursue and be in the right places is excellent. They are hard to run against in the short side of the field.
Stand-up rusher comes. Rogers sideline. Faolo gets knocked out of bounds by Mock. Just beyond the marker. They'll get the first, gain of 9.
Yeah, what a great story with Faolo. Faolo, I mean, most guys get hurt the way Faolo got hurt. What was that, about a month, 6 weeks ago? That's a knee injury that guys miss the rest of the year with. And, credit to the training staff and just the sheer toughness of this young man that he's been able to come back in and contribute to this football team.
Jenkins in motion. Rogers off the play fake. Takes a shot too tall. That's happened a few times. They're good coverage from Taylor on Jenkins. But they have tried to find Jenkins downfield multiple times, and the rhythm isn't quite there.
Yeah, it has to do with accuracy more than anything else. I mean, those are passes that you see completed all the time, that they're dropped into a spot. And right now, those intermediate passes, which are that kind of behind the linebacker in front of the safety, they're at a premium in college football. And right now, that's something that the UNLV quarterback Rogers is struggling with.
Movement up front, toss play to Williams. And Williams the hard yards to midfield, but flags down. The right side of the Air Force line seemed to move. 4 on the carry. Word from referee David Alvarez.
Offside. Defense, number 94, 5-yard penalty. Still second down.
From Jordan Jackson, who is an elite defender up front.
Yeah, it was Jordan Jackson earlier that broke through in that B gap and Rogers and put that hit on him that caused that fumble. That's one thing Rogers has to be careful with. You can't get into a routine of calling snaps. You know, if it's second clap, second clap, second clap, they're going to start teeing off.
Williams out. Chad Magyar is the deep back. Gets fed and has no room. Air Force collapses. Push him back for a yard. Make it 2.
You hear all the time, you know, you got to be in your gaps. Defense is about gaps, and it's about physical control. Well, the gaps are all full, and the physical control is there for the Air Force defense.
Christian Herrera on top of him there. Air Force contains the run incredibly well.
Well, they ought to. They see it all day in practice.
3rd down and 7, 8th play of the drive, not yet beyond midfield. Backside pressure, Rogers finds Faolo. Sandwiched by defenders. That was a tight window. Mock behind him. They get a dozen yards there at a 1st down.
And give kudos to Rogers for staying in the pocket and holding it. Watch how long he holds it. He's physically affected at the end of this throw, but he hangs in there just long enough to get the ball really accurately in there to Faolo. It's a big target for a tight end.
And Faolo was the leading receiver for UNLV at the time of his injury. Grade 2 sprain of his MCL, slight tear of his meniscus. Action. Oh, misdirection does not baffle Air Force. Dropped for a loss of about 4 as the piercing pressure came there from Vince Sanford, the team leader in tackles for loss and sacks. Faolo is on the athletic training table.
Yeah, if you're Sanford and you're leading, like you said, in tackles for loss, you do that because you penetrate, because you get on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and you're just hard to deal with. And that's what he was there. He got up there about 3 yards into the backfield, and he wouldn't be blocked.
And rush, Rogers still feeling pressure. Deep shot over the middle, and the contact comes. What a completion as he hooks up with Kilanahe Mendiola Jensen, the freshman who was converted from DB to wide receiver in camp, 27 yards.
Good job by Mendiola Jensen of not listening to the music. And when I say the music, I mean those safeties. He knows they're coming. He knows the hit's coming, but he concentrates on the ball and he concentrates on the catch. Good body control, good hands, and good ignoring the hits coming.
Able to handle that pressure. Marcus Arroyo, a teaching moment with Justin Rogers. First quarter saw Troy Calhoun's team force a couple of turnovers and take plumb advantage. They hit the spot on the parachute drop at the start. Roberts has found Pater twice. 14-zip through 1. 14-0 Air Force. UNLV on the drive. Justin Rogers has sprung to life on this drive.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a nice couple of passes. One out there to Faolo, and then Mendiola Jackson over the middle, but you got to finish. I mean, finish is the name of the game anyway in any sport. But on this drive at this point, down 14-0, this ball's got to be in the end zone, and I mean soon.
They're in the red zone where they only get touchdowns 56% of the time. Had 1 in their last couple of games. Charles Williams into the pile. They move it some to the 11. He gets 3. And Williams, though, has largely been held in check by this Air Force defense.
Well, any game that Charles Williams plays in that he's not popping, and we've seen him pop from 75, we've seen him pop from 80. He could pop from just as easily from a 10, 11, 20 yards out, but there haven't been the holes.
Young man who has set the program record for career rushing yards. Just the 4th in Mountain West history to reach 4,000. Off the fake, Rogers checking down, sidestep and hits. And he's brought down. Sack back at the 19. Canby Goff has been flying for the Falcons, a loss of 7.
Yeah, there's an instance there where you get that early pressure coming off your left side, you step up. You got to start thinking right here, not so much who you're going to throw it to. Don't take the sack. Get rid of that ball.
Well, they had given up 32 sacks, UNLV, in their first 8 games. They had allowed 3 in their last 3 games. But Air Force can bring the heat. They had 7, a season high at Nevada last week.
How about this tackling, though? When they get their hands on you for Air Force defense, they are going to bring you down.
Rogers pressured again. Slips through it. And ankle grab by Sanford again, down to the 11. So a gain of 7. And now the field goal unit reluctantly trots out, to your point.
The sound you heard from the crowd outside our window here in the broadcast booth right about now was, ooh, because you had some convergence going on. Defenders getting some shots on Rogers. Rogers getting down was a really good idea.
29-yard try from Daniel Gutierrez. High snap. And a bad snap foils UNLV. Air Force pounces, and they'll take over the football after the field goal try botched. Trey Bug III.
Well, 14-0 is about right. You fumbled the kickoff. The quarterbacks fumbled the ball on a snap. On a sack. And now you've had a bad snap on a field goal attempt. You're lucky you're down 14-0.
Air Force forcing turnovers on senior day. Mistakes have piled up for UNLV.
And they started early. I mean, the opening kickoff, you get a helmet on a hip and a helmet on the ball. That thing comes out. Then Rogers, the quarterback, on a sack, knocks the ball out. That cost him 14 points. And a high snap on a field goal. Yet to be determined what that cost them. But it cost them at least 3.
A Falcon team that holds the ball for over 36 minutes a game. Top rushing team in the country. And a 2-touchdown lead, led by the backup quarterback. Brian, the option pitch, and a man falls down for UNLV, opening up space for Brandon Lewis. Gashes them for 11 and a first down.
Yeah, that's the thing about going against this offense. They will hit you so often with Roberts. You start thinking about the fullback. They're going to throw some of these little options at you, and suddenly they pitch the ball, and you got some openings out there, and we got a man down.
Yeah, there is a rebel down on the Air Force sideline. Athletic trainers have already sprinted onto the Air Force side of the field. That is Bryce Jackson, the free safety. And we'll step aside as they tend to the senior. 14-0, Air Force leads UNLV. Some finals in the Mountain West today. Boise State fell against San Diego State. Utah State dispatched up New Mexico. So that means the Aztecs are in the Mountain West Championship game, and Utah State is in. They have the tiebreaker head-to-head. So even if Air Force wins, and they would have identical records, that head-to-head win would propel Utah State to the championship.
Yeah, pretty special year for Utah State. You look at it from the beginning of the year. I'm not sure if that would have been the team people had figured out as being the team that would come out on top on the mountain side.
Here's a look at the injury that took us to break. Bryce Jackson, free safety, locking horns number 24 with Brandon Lewis.
Yeah, no way to guess what exactly is going on, but he needed help getting off the field, and they took that shoe, sock, and tape job off pretty quick.
And here is Zach Larrier at quarterback, the third man for Air Force, and Larrier's got a first down. Shoved out of bounds. One of the longer runs for the Falcons on the day.
Watch this side get stretched, and then that hole just develop. That's a really nice job by that offensive line, the right side of that offensive line for Air Force. Times it really doesn't matter who's carrying the ball. Those guys up front do the job. They've got the bodies that can carry it and hurt you.
Here is a sprinter, got 15 yards there. Now a little misdirection. Oh, and the block holds. That's beautiful. And Larrier, another first down surge.
Yeah, that's a little weak side counter, bringing the backside guard and tackle underneath with that A-back on the other side going with him. Hand it off underneath with the quarterback. Man, that is pretty. But that backside guard doing a beautiful job of trapping and hooking. Just creating that hole.
Adam Karras helping to pave the path, 18 yards. Looks like Warren Bryan, the sub back in at quarterback. Larrier, who's the Mountain West outdoor track champion in the 200 meters.
That's long speed.
It could be on display at some point today. The inside run, which is more typical. They hand it to the fullback more than anything else on the season. But just a yard there. It's not something that Roberts and company, outside of goal-to-go situations, have done much today.
Yeah, they tend to test your patience. They want to look at you and go, look, we can be methodical. We'll stay between the tackles. We'll run Roberts like crazy. But as soon as you start making adjustments, in these triple option offenses like this one run by Troy Calhoun, there aren't any staffs in the country that are better at adjustments with the run than a triple option offense.
Larrier's back under center. Oh, and he reads it well, turns it upfield. Taken out at the 32, gets 5. Armed Forces football proudly supported by the Exchange.
Yeah, John, that should have been a loss of 1, but that little jump cut just did that. I mean, that jump cut there created those yards. And we got a rebel down.
Seems to be Tavis Malakias who got the start. Field goal block in the Utah State game, pressed into some extra action up front. It's their D-line that has really aided them in their last few weeks.
College football on CBS Sports Network is sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. By Ram Trucks, J.D. Power's #1 brand in new vehicle quality. And by delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper, the one fans deserve.
Smiles abound, turkey, taters, all the fixins upon arrival in Colorado Springs for UNLV at Thanksgiving. A happy holiday to you and yours. Man down for UNLV, Tavis Malakias.
Malakias comes over the top of that pile there, and his arm gets trapped underneath. And his left arm had a little bit of a brace on it to start with, and he's in some obvious pain as they'll take him to the locker room.
They can ill afford to lose men up front against this voracious rush attack that's already run for 103, averaging 7 per carry. Warren Bryan is back at quarterback. No Zeke Daniels today. Emmanuel Michel. Jacoby Windman trips him up around the 27. He gets about 6. That is good for a first down.
And I've talked about Wilmer a couple times. Check out the guard here coming around and what he creates with this block. Big, physical, 300 and something pounds. You don't have to plow drive people. I mean, they're diving out of your way. And when they dive out of your way, the backs have vision. They go the other way.
Hawk Wimmer, the only senior on that line, who's had the most starts, has been the most consistent. Good penetration from UNLV. Emmanuel Michel doesn't have much, only a couple, dragged down by Trey Kane.
And we've seen these linemen either pulling on traps or coming around. You know, Peter Hansen, the defensive coordinator from UNLV, made the comment to us on our Zoom call, we've got to trap the trappers. And what he means by that is they've got to close that distance on those guys that are moving. They've got to be able to stop those guys. Don't let them get that upfield momentum.
By the way, Trey Kane, who started last year, FCS transfer, only had 1 tackle this year. That tells you how thin they are at safety right now. But that stop. Larrier's back at quarterback. He can run. He gets stood up something fierce at around the 24, gain of 2. So Anthony Sagapolutella gets the stop.
So we've had that third turnover, that third mistake. Last two they got touchdowns off of them. You look at this one now, because of that high snap, it seems like it was a quarter ago, because this style of offense just methodically grinds the ball down the field. You've got to figure out a way to stop them if you're the Rebels.
2 on third down today. Option pitch. Oh, and a block holds, but there is Winman. Excellent pursuit of Eldridge. He gets 4. He's going to be short.
And there's Winman coming forward for one heck of a good job. He would not be blocked, pursuing from the inside out. Good blocking there, but look at Winman coming from that linebacker position. But despite that really nice block, Winman gets out there. I think they've been running away from Winman's side. That time they tried him, they found out why they've been running the other way.
37-yard try here from Matthew DePore. Hit from 49 last week, a career high against Nevada. 3-score game. And he converts. Troy Calhoun's team has forced 3 turnovers. All 3 have yielded points. Today's installment of Air Force's Greatest Legends, brought to you by The Exchange. We take a look at the QB, Arian Worthman, 2017 against UNLV. He ran for a career-high 5 touchdowns, 166 yards, and the Falcons overcame a 27-point deficit. Since graduation, he's worked for the USSF Space Systems Command in Los Angeles for the Cross Mission Ground and Communications Enterprise Division.
Go from Air Force to Space Force. That's the ultimate in moving up, literally.
That is very true. Yeah, it makes the elevation of this stadium pale in comparison. Now Bryce Honecker ready to kick off. It was a fumble on the opening kick by UNLV that set up a short field, a score for Air Force. A later fumble by QB Justin Rogers yielded another TD, and a botched snap on a field goal try led to the field goal that Air Force just hit. Tomorrow morning, 10 Eastern, catch the conclusion of the Baha Mar Hoops Tournament as Louisville faces Maryland, a chance to be crowned this year's title winner right here on CBS Sports Network. Eric Ayala, 16 per. He dropped 20, 9 boards, 5 dimes last time out for the Terps against the Richmond Spiders. Well, it's getting to be that time, right? As soon as that Black Friday arrives, elf gear.
Little elf.
Charles Williams had his steam shoulders down the first man. Trey Taylor pops him at around the 33, make it the 32, gain of 7.
Yeah, he's had a couple of 4s and 5. That's one of his first 7s and 8s that he's been able to pop. We've seen Roberts get a lot more room to run. In fact, maybe even more room by Larry, or the backup to the backup at quarterback for Air Force as far as room. A good job on the left side of the UNLV line there.
Let's see what Rogers can muster. Right back to Williams. Blocks hold on that left side. He's able to dance out of bounds, get the first down by a little more than a yard. He gets 5. Now here's the latest in the rushing title chase between Brad Roberts and Charles Williams. Now for UNLV, only 2 wins entering today. The season concludes today. Air Force will not have the Mountain West Championship game, but will have a bowl game.
And those yards will count to the conference total.
Rogers off the play fake. Incomplete. Looking for Ziel Griffin.
Rogers pass intended for Ziel Griffin.
Ian Castanway in coverage. Now Air Force, Randy, you get a 3-score lead. They can play keep away so well. Generally, you're thinking that's a hard deficit to overcome. But last week, Air Force blew a 2-touchdown lead in the 4th quarter and had to go to multiple overtimes against Nevada.
And they've had troubles holding leads against this team in previous meetings in the past, too.
Pressure's on for Rogers. He gets the pass off, but incomplete. Excellent coverage from Trey Bug III.
Is incomplete.
And Rogers finds himself getting up again off the turf after that pass.
3rd down and 10.
3rd and 10 arrives. Marcus Arroyo, long-time relationship with Justin Rogers. Troy Calhoun's defense has held UNLV to 2 of 4 on 3rd down so far.
Well, if you're Air Force, you got to think, hey, we maybe can man up. They play a lot of man anyway. Man up and blitz. Go after Rogers here.
They send 4, and they get to him and swing him down for another sack. Bo Richter. That's 3 sacks for Air Force, a loss of 7.
Bo Richter coming along the outside. He never even gets blocked. No one gets close to him. It's a numbers game. You've got 3 guys, and or 3 guys coming, 2 guys on the right side, a guard and a tackle, and a center is not going to get that far out on a guy like Richter.
The punt. Scooped up in stride. And a hard shoulder down and out of bounds at around the 33. Richter, a recent insertion into a bigger role in the defense, paying handsome dividends in back-to-back weeks.
Welcome back to Air Force. Here's a problem if you're UNLV. You got 1 blocker here, 2 blockers here. Your center's covered, your guard's uncovered, and you've got 1, 2, 3 on this side. I mean, this is a play you got to get out of. You can't defend this. You cannot block it. There's no way you can block that play. I mean, you could probably bring maybe your guard, call a rip, which means everybody's got to go 1 guy to your right. But that's waiting. That's an inside rush waiting to happen. Marcus Arroyo and company have got to figure out when they get that look again what to do with it, because they will get that one again.
And the entire time we were away, it was dialogue between the head man Marcus Arroyo and his starting quarterback today, Justin Rogers. Cameron Friel, who had been starting for the last month plus, was injured last week. And we were told that Matthew Geating, a walk-on freshman, got the number 2 reps during practice. And here's the run by Roberts. Plant, part of the barrage that tames him at the 39. He still gets 6. I mean, they're averaging 7 yards a carry. 6 different Falcons have carried the ball today.
Yeah, and the difference really is between the 2 running games. Williams is getting hit a lot from the front. They're blocking holes and stuffing holes, and he's getting hit from the front. Roberts on the other side is getting hit by the linebackers from the side and then getting another couple of yards.
Warren Bryant, a quarterback this possession. Play. Cut up field. Nice field there from Brandon Lewis. So he gets 6 yards. That's good for a first. Brad Roberts hails from Colorado, and this junior fullback can bring it in a big way. 100 yards in a game 7 times this year. He has broken the program record for most rushing yards by a fullback in a season, set by now 1-star general Rodney Lewis in 1989. And man, what a bear hug that was.
Not on that play. Didn't they know we were running a nice graphic to praise him?
Eliel Ehemare blows him up.
Oh, Ehemare just gets into that B gap and keeps right on going. That's how you converge on an option fullback. Now, having said that, when you see them biting down and stunning down and making moves like that inside to take your fullback away, that's a quick pitch to a back or a quarterback keep waiting to happen.
First tackle for loss by UNLV today. Air Force's defense has done that 6 times. Larrier is back at quarterback. He can run. He has never thrown in his career. Man, he's quick. That first step, he gets 6 yards.
Yeah, that's your quarterback keep waiting to happen right there. And Larrier's a guy, he makes these jump cuts. Watch his jump cut there. He makes that decision, puts that foot in the ground, and it seems like in nothing, he's 5 yards down the field. This kid's got a bright future. This guy's going to be something to see if it's indeed him. down the road running this offense.
Zeke Daniels, primary starter. No pads, no helmet, not available today. Non-COVID illness. We got word after the game began. 3rd and 5. Trying to follow the fullback, and UNLV smothers, crashing down at the 49. Gain of only a yard, 4th down.
Now there's something that Larry found out about. Being a track guy, being a quarterback, being a jump cut guy. If you're going to make that jump cut, you got to jump cut. Don't hesitate. Don't look. If you take the time to look, only bad things happen when you're carrying the ball between the tackles. And that usually means you're going to catch a D tackle in the side of the head.
Brendan Scott able to get him there. And a clean kick. And the ball out of bounds to pin UNLV. That is a perfect punt to the 4-yard line.
Yeah, I always think inside the 10 should be the new standard. You see the stats, it's number of punts inside the 20. Show me inside the 10. When you pin a team like this, you set up more points for your offense.
Freshman Carson Bay, 45-yard punt. Coming up, the halftime report, powered by Ram Trucks. Brent Stover, Kevin Carter, Danny Cannell. We'll have all the scores and highlights around the country. Today's other Mountain West action, analysis of the key games that will impact the college football playoff top 4. Head your way on the halftime report, powered by Ram Trucks. And you wonder how aggressive with Daniels on the bench. Air Force has been dynamite. Do you send pressure against Rogers in the end zone? Trying to find breathing room with Charles Williams, and the mighty Chuck Wagon able to pound to the 7. He gets 3.
Smart move. That's what you do on first down to get a little bit of room for your offense. You know, there's actually not a bad thing. You want to get a first down here. Just for no other reason, you're going to give your punt team more room, so you give them the ball, move back past midfield. Protection's got to be paramount.
Here's to Williams. As he turns it upfield, he runs into a couple of Falcons, including Alec Mock. They squeeze him for no gain, maybe a yard.
What a nice job by Mock and that defense. You saw Williams just stop. And usually when you stop like that, you expect the defense to keep on going, that all those defensive guys will flow. Well, a timeout now by UNLV. They didn't stop flowing, not all of them, John.
Charles Williams held in check. Blood in the water for Air Force. Just called a timeout.
Here we go. You bring at least 4, you man up, and you take your chances.
Rogers dropped. Incomplete. That was a forward pass. Incomplete. That freezes the clock. So now Air Force has 2 timeouts and a minute 9 with UNLV set to punt out of its end zone.
Yeah, just so important. Sort of place and time. You know, pretty obvious there. You didn't exactly get a great chance to hold on to that ball. You saw it being thrown like a helicopter, the way it came out of the quarterback's Rogers' hand. Now you've got to protect, because they are going to set up a return. They will jam up your gunners, the guys on the outside, and the inside guys will set up a return. If your return is standing on the 50.
And that is a poor punt, high in the air, but not much distance. Bent knee at the UNLV 41. So a 33-yard punt, and Air Force again has a super short field, and they changed numbers there. Remember, they had the penalty early? That is, I believe, the primary punt returner, Jake Spiewak, who put on 99, which is worn by Air Force's punter, but they had 2 11s on the field for a rare penalty right in the infancy of the game.
Yep, and this set up exactly what Troy Calhoun wanted. This is why you got to have that first down when you're backed up. Because if you don't get the first down, if you don't get a perfect punt, you're going to be almost in field goal range.
Here's option pitch. Lewis breaks free. Pat Windman, touchdown Air Force. 41 yards.
John, you got to say it's cause and effect. The cause being they've been pounding the ball and pounding the ball, and UNLV's been thwarting some of it. But you start thinking so much about Roberts, you lose track of those other backs. And when you lose track of one of these running backs for Air Force, they're not the biggest guys, but as you see, they can scoot.
First rushing score of the year for Lewis. And the point after is good. Air Force has owned the first half on Senior Day.
Well, you look at this from upstairs. Your defenders right here, you've got to know if the run's not inside with the numbers they have working here, they come at you, you're going to have bad matchups. And everybody that I circled was blocked. And that means there's nobody on that side to stop that run. That was beautiful. I mean, great job by Lewis just jetting out there. But execution-wise, that was very well done by Troy Calhoun's offense.
Well, Air Force leads the country in rushing. Right now, their rushing numbers are a little more modest because they've had so many short fields. They don't have one pass attempt, and they have dominated every facet of the game.
Yeah, that's one of the real drawbacks of playing these option teams. You know, whether it's options anywhere, but options at the academy. If you don't stop the run, they have no problem not passing. I mean, absolutely zero. Or they'll throw 3 times and they'll get you about 120 yards because you're biting on the run so hard.
And Honecker, another touchback, deep enough kick. It's now 54 seconds. UNLV has 3 timeouts. How aggressive are you? What do you do here?
I think if you're Marcus Arroyo's football team, you run the ball here. You try to get into the half and see if you can draw some stuff up. Stop some of the pressure you're getting on the offensive side from the offensive line, getting beat in some of these situations and out-schemed in others.
And there is Williams. The gut gets body slammed down to the 29-yard line. Mock another stop, gain of 4. So time ticks. Marcus Arroyo's team at the near miss against a ranked San Diego State team last week after the first couple of wins in his 2 years as the head coach.
Well, they've had quite a few close calls this year. And it's been a real contrast to what you've seen out of this program in the past because they've had a hard time being competitive. They've been competitive.
It's a good gash, has the first down. Clock will stop as they move the chains. And he gets 10 yards. Do you take a shot at a Hail Mary here? And Rogers, a highly heralded recruit out of high school who was offered by Georgia, LSU, and Texas.
I think from the looks of this, what you do is you go in at halftime and figure out how you're going to put this thing together and make it a more competitive second half.
The first half owned by Air Force, a dominant display on Senior Day at Colorado Springs. After the break, Brent Stover and the gang in New York City. You're watching college football on CBS Sports Network. In the wild blue yonder, it's all Air Force through 1, 24-0 on top of UNLV. Third quarter about to get underway. John Sadak, the Hall of Famer, Randy Cross. Your takeaways from that first?
Well, it's been the mistakes and the resulting ability to take advantage of those mistakes by Troy Calhoun's Air Force football team. They've caused them, and then they've made them pay for them. And the other mistake that happened was when you get pinned back, you've got to find a way to get that first down, because if you don't, the field positions are going to be such that it's going to just drive you crazy.
Let's see who's been doing the dirty work in this game. Brought to you by Coyote Tractor.
Well, we've talked about this Joe Moore Award semifinalist offensive line. There's Wimmer on the backside. He's going to pull up, and he's going to create a heck of a gash here for his fullback to get in behind him, Roberts, and that yards after contact is so important. And anytime you get an option team, you're going to see the other running backs and the receivers are going to be the key to big plays. And after that punt return, or non-return, but that great field position at the 41, you get a block by a running back, you get a block by a receiver, and then you get a running back that turns into a blur for a 6-point run.
UNLV had won the toss and asked for the ball at the game start. So Air Force has it to begin the second. And the Falcons flying without their starting quarterback, Zeke Daniels, not in pads. And we take a look at the first half stats. Not a single pass attempt for Air Force at this point. You would think unlikely to try it on the game.
Yeah, but the important part has been those turnovers and the penalties. And both have been predominantly on the side of the UNLV Rebs.
Warren Bryant has been the primary quarterback, helped by Zach Larrier. Later pitch, bit of a stumble there for Lewis, able to find second footing and find a first down. And that's 10 yards for Lewis, who had the sprint for a score in the late stage of the first.
Yeah, and that sponsored element by Coyote right there coming out of the half. We showed you what's happening there, and there's Windman, their big defensive player. And how do you avoid a really good defensive player? Run away from him and put people on him to slow him down.
Now the fullback trap. Ball loose. Air Force able to pounce. Ben Jefferson falls upon the ball that Brad Roberts could not handle.
Well, look at the blocking up front. Those are bodies that are covered. There's coordination. And it just looks like people are kind of brushing off defenders. Well, that brushing off motion, that's not accidental. That's practiced.
For Air Force, that's the 20th fumble. They've only lost 6. They run the ball literally more than anyone in the country. Number 2 is Army, and they have more than 100 extra attempts. All right, through the tackle. And Windman trying to clean it up. Roberts on that second effort surges to the 32.
And look at the blocking up front. You're going to see a real good look at it. Wimmer, the guard, creates the hole. And then 1, 2, and even Windman there can't bring him down, just eventually gets him to the ground. That is beautiful blocking up front. Now you're really getting a good idea why this offensive line is highly acclaimed this year, as it is, being a semifinalist for that Joe Moore Award.
Change the sprinter. Zach Larrier is back under center. He had attempted a pass in his career. Why not go straight up the gut again? And you get about 3 yards. And Randy, you and I were talking just before we came back for the second half. This felt like the time for Air Force to unleash one of those long, slow, methodical drives. They're getting such chunks here, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, that's the problem. When they're averaging, 7-something a carry, you're not going to have long, methodical drives because you're going to get those great big ones.
Later pitch action. Trying to shake a defender, but second wave is there. And help from Kyle Beaudry. Just a yard there for
Eric Lewis makes the tackle.
Yeah, really nice job by the cornerback Lewis out there on the outside, turning that thing back in, getting a little help.
3rd and 6 for the Falcons.
Well, here's 3rd down. Air Force 2 of 4 on 3rd down today.
Do you go short side, or do you take all this field at the bottom of the screen?
Ryan back at quarterback, toss play to Jefferson. Block holds on the edge. He's got the first down.
Just a pretty job. And we talk about blocking in running games. You always think about offensive lines, but it isn't all about the line. Look at the running backs and the receivers getting those blocks down the field. They buy those extra 5 yards. It's those backs and those receivers and those blocks by them that make those kind of runs possible.
12 yards there. The area where Roberts can shine, able to shield the football. Pound at the 12, he gets 4.
Brad Roberts into the middle.
This is the part of the field where they'll just start pounding you, and they'll say, hey, look, we know we got an offensive line that can play as well as anybody in the country. We'll just go right at you. We'll make you stop Roberts.
And there are the semifinalists for the best offensive line in America.
In no particular alphabetical order.
Air Force, the lone Mountain West representative. 8th play of this drive. And Larrier, touchdown Air Force. A dozen yards for the sophomore, and he gets the first touchdown of his career.
Well, if you're going to take that long running a counter in this style of an offense, you better have some good blocking. We showed you those 13 semifinalists for that Joe Moore Award. Watch the blocking up front. Larrier's got a chance to start left, go back, stop, jump block, or jump cut, and no one ever touches him. One defender did not lay a hand on Larrier on that play.
Tapur, the point after, is good. A dominant day up front for the Falcons. They have shined on senior day and own a 31-0 lead. 3 primary quarterbacks, shoulder to shoulder. The ill Hazik Daniels out of pads. His backups have shined. Warren Bryan, Zach Larrier. The latter just got his first career touchdown. And these are some of the scores around the Mountain West. Yesterday, Fresno beat San Jose State. That meant San Diego State had to win to get into the title game. The Aztecs did. They pulled away from Boise State. And Utah State, with a win over New Mexico, will be in a tie with Air Force if Air Force wins, but owns the tiebreaker head-to-head, a high-scoring game. So Utah State, San Diego State, that is your conference championship.
That's going to be a good ball game. That is 2 pretty complete football teams.
But different
for the conference.
Yeah, San Diego State, they run so well. They defend great. Utah State could be explosive with the pass game. After Air Force began the second half with a TD, another touchback. What stood out in that last Air Force possession?
Well, it's getting to be kind of redundant, but that never bothers me when it comes to great offensive line play. You're having some really nice blocking, and Roberts at the fullback position is making the defense so aware of the fullback play that the running backs outside open up, and then the quarterback, Larrier, gets a chance to run for a touchdown and not have a single soul lay a hand on him. I mean, it was a nice looking run, but when nobody hits you, it's a lot easier.
And that is offensive line perfection. Off a play fake, the line is not held up for UNLV. That's a 4th sack today, as Vince Sanford, the most sacks by a linebacker in the Mountain West on the season, drags down Rogers.
Yeah, Sanford doing a good job at that linebacker position. Look at him come. Faolo came in motion like he was going to block and just sort of stopped, and Sanford didn't. As soon as he stopped, he attacked.
The receiver falls down. It was Ziel Griffin, who has pretty simpatico feel with Rogers on the year. They've connected for a couple of big passes in Rogers' limited time, but the timing, the fluidity, the feel has not been there disrupted by Air Force.
Yeah, not at all for this passing game. There was a little part of the second quarter where the accuracy was there and the timing was there, but generally speaking, because of the pass rush and because of the coverage, it's just been a tough road to hoe trying to throw the ball against this Falcon defense.
And the screen to Williams, gets a couple of blocks. 3 defenders converge, knock him out at 32. He gets 11. It'll be 4th and 3. Ian Castaway, part of that trio.
Yeah, and when your offense is not functioning at 100% capacity, to say the least, you don't even think about going for it on 4th down. You get your punt team out, and you hope for a good punt down the field, because otherwise you're going to be in the 35-plus area. You're facing an offense that loves to go less than 70 yards in any drive they can go.
Silva has struggled some of the punt game today. Speed walk, the fair catch wave. brings it in at his 31.5. Air Force back on the offensive. A gaudy 31-0 advantage. Here's the playoff picture in the AFC. Buffalo, a much-needed victory over New Orleans last night.
And that Vegas win over Dallas, great stat by Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. When Carr throws for over 300 yards for the Las Vegas Raiders, he's 6-0. When he doesn't throw for over 300 yards, they're 0-5. An offensive coordinator, but I think you could figure that out.
Well, Air Force, when Brad Roberts has run for 100, they're 6-1. He hasn't been in there a ton. Emmanuel Michel gets another look at fullback, and he leaves him in the dust. The backup fullback knocked out of bounds inside of the 5. Ricky Johnson saved a touchdown. As he got to the 4, it's a 64-yard rip.
Same formula up front. Watch that offensive line. There's Big Wimmer. He comes around and gets himself a big piece of a linebacker. And Wimmer gets enough of that huge hole gives Michel a pretty nice little area to go to. Just barely got caught there at the very end.
Air Force has been explosive from the jump, and they're gaining momentum. Right back to the ground, and UNLV able to stand up Michel this time at the 2. Gets a couple of yards there. Jacoby Windman part of the denial.
Yeah, the other guy up front that I thought has really played well today is Karras, the offensive tackle, 59. He really has done a good job, not only just blocking straight ahead and hooking on the run and doing all those great things, but also as a puller on the backside on some of those counter plays. Tight end here.
Right back to the fullback. Bully in. Touchdown, Air Force. Emmanuel Michel gets his 3rd touchdown. A 37-point bludgeoning.
Well, we talked about Wimmer, talked about Karras. Watch those 2 blocks out of the guard and the tight end. Watch that side collapse. That's pretty rudimentary stuff, but that's kind of offensive line. Any running back or quarterback or wide receiver, anybody'd like to be running behind these guys.
Michel did most of his damage in the near miss against Utah State, one that might have cost the Falcons a chance to play for a championship. Here he caps off the drive. Touchdown, Falcons.
I love you, Mom.
38-0 Air Force. The Falcon fullbacks 165 combined on the ground. Only 15 days to go in the countdown to America's game, the Army-Navy game presented by USAA on CBS Sports. Now, Air Force fell in overtime to Army. Air Force does have a win over Navy, so the best case scenarios around robin tie, in which case the CIC stays with its winner from a season ago. That means Army will have the trophy. They can win it outright in a game that's just a can't-miss experience.
I can't wait to see that scene at MetLife. I mean, that whole experience anyway is an incredible thing. The Army-Navy game anyway. But you put that at MetLife with the 20th anniversary of 9/11 and everything else. It's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience of that once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Can't wait for those jersey reveals. Another touchback here. Armed Forces Football, proudly sponsored by USAA. So there's the backfield duo, Justin Rogers, Charles Williams. Yeah, Randy, we were talking some during break. Time of possession in the first half was won by UNLV, mostly because Air Force had such a short field. It feels like it is now downhill Air Force, and Rogers and company need some kind of momentum.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get a first down when you're trying to come out from being backed up. You don't get a first down when you start your second half offensively. You're asking for those kind of drives, and that'll be the result.
Charles Williams trying to follow a blocker flag fly, some contact out of bounds.
Yeah.
Trey Taylor, and it looked like Bug as well went out of play there.
Yeah, that was closer to the stands than it was the field when the contact happened. Got to take care of your players. Got to take care of your running backs like Williams.
Griffin trying to block.
After the play, personal foul, late and out of bounds, defense number 7, 15-yard penalty and an automatic first down.
In a year with so many unknowns for Air Force and some significant players lost due to injury, Taylor didn't play the first 3 games, has started every game since. He had 10 tackles to lead the team in the near miss against Army. He had a career-high 11 in the 1-score loss to San Diego State.
How often does that happen in college football, though? You know, it happens all the time. You discover a player by injury.
Jake Rogers taking a shot, deep heave, and a one-on-one caught by Griffin. Down at the 1-yard line. Trey Bug III saved him on the doorstep, 55 yards.
About a half a dozen times we've seen Rogers trying to get the ball deep. Hasn't been terribly accurate a lot of the time, but this time drops it perfectly in over the top. His receiver just follows and tracks it the whole way. And then Williams closes the deal.
Touchdown UNLV to spoil the shutout. Williams is Mountain West best, 14th rushing score of the year, and he's walking with a bit of a limp there.
Well, let's be honest. As often as this kid has carried the ball in some other games this year, you and I wouldn't be walking for a week if we carried the ball that many times. And he's done an incredible job for this football team, basically carrying this offense.
Point after from Gutierrez. So they get their response, that kinship between Rogers and Griffin, the big play, and Williams able to pay it off.
All right, here's Griffin. He's going to line up here. Watch him run this route and attack the inside shoulder of the cornerback. It's man coverage. Nobody in this conference runs more man coverage than Air Force, but he attacks the inside shoulder, gets around that inside shoulder, and the ball is delivered over the outside shoulder. That's a heck of a combination. You've got to have some pretty good speed to run that inside-outside kind of thing and have that quarterback drop it over the top like that.
Well, Rogers and Griffin do have a special kinship, and Griffin's getting more look today with Kyle Williams, who might be UNLV's best receiver, out. He was hurt last week. Pooch kick here. An up man for the Falcons. They'll begin at the 28. Let's take a look at our Dr. Pepper Fansville PM.
That looks like a coach's kid. Arms folded on the sideline. Oh, there's a spotter.
The gobble gobble still being enjoyed. Santa did make a surprise appearance at halftime.
How did Troy Calhoun get dressed and undressed that fast?
You've been naughty, Randy. You're going to be shut out. Well, Air Force, you see, third quarter nearly matching what they did in the first half. That was more virtue of their field position than effectiveness. And Beaudry gets ahead on the hip of Roberts, who gets 6. You know, Beaudry getting more time because Austin Ajike, who's the second leading tackler still for the Rebels, hasn't played since the Nevada game. Yeah, he's been out for several weeks due to injury. Beaudry stepped up fairly well.
Yeah, he really has. And he's done it by being a good combination of physical at the point of attack and also just a quick reacting linebacker on the backside of plays run-wise.
Larrier back in. Roberts out of the first hit. I mean, they are falling forward with contact. Here's another first down on a run of 8.
Well, how often have we seen him today hit into the line of scrimmage? Now, he comes right off the outside. You have the tight end, seals things down, and he's got the ability to just kind of bounce off that, roll off that, and then go off the first, hit off the first tackler or attempted tackle.
5 of 7 possessions today for Air Force, averaging 8.5 yards a carry. Reverse field, Larrier's got blockers and he can fly. Another first down.
Zachary Larrier with the carry.
Lassoed down by Tyson Player as he gets 18. A lot of chunk yard plays here for the Falcons.
Yeah, that last play, that was a counter play for your quarterback. Backside guard, backside tackle pulling, getting around that corner. That's a lonely feeling for a defensive back or a linebacker when you're out there all by yourself. You've got force, and you've got a big guy with a funny bent-looking number coming at you that outweighs you by about 60 pounds.
Inside run. So that's now 42 plays that Air Force has run. Roberts gets 6 there. They have had double-digit yards 11 times. This is what Air Force has done on its last 7 possessions. A lot of TDs there.
Yeah, a lot of TDs, a lot of big runs, a lot of chunks, like you were just talking about. And the common theme in those chunks and those runs and everything about it has been that offensive line that has really had one of their better days performing-wise, and they've been dominant.
They'll be in dire need of a turnover. Roberts, man, he just smacks you. Another first down.
Well, he smacks you, John, but if you're not getting a chance to hit the fullback till he's 5 yards down the field, I don't care how good you are. You're not hitting the man up. That right side collapses. They're running that little kind of counter-looking thing again. I mean, Roberts is 5-6 yards down the field, and then they push the pile.
Another double-digit yardage run. There you go, a dozen on the game. 3 times they've gone for 20 yards, and they have yet to try a pass. Shell spells Roberts at fullback. They'll feed him. He's able to hurdle the first would-be hitter. Gets to the 19, gain of 6. Another tackle for Beaudry.
Again, you look up front and you see those white jerseys are going backwards. In some cases, 5, 6, 7, 10 yards down the field, they're going backwards.
Windeman, who's an excellent player.
Well, linebacker, you can get caught up in the wash when the defensive line gets blown back into your lap.
Nice fake. Amari Terry, excellent pursuit there. Flag is out.
Amari Terry, ball carrier.
Aaron Lewis, the corner, able to bring him down.
Yeah, another good support tackle by Lewis coming off that edge on the outside, not letting things get around him and tackling very surely.
It's a loss of a yard, but what's the flag for?
Well, it's probably a holding or some sort of infraction against the offense.
Personal foul, chop block, number 81 and 24 of the offense. Penalty. Run.
When you're engaged with a blocker, the second blocker can't come in and hit down below. Right there. The receiver is locked, and as right there. Yeah, it's that's sort of the textbook definition. That's for safety.
And back to Emmanuel Michel. Running start thanks to that line, and they pave a path back to the original line of scrimmage. They get 9 yards back. Brendan Scott gets the stick, so 3rd and 10.
Third down and 10.
Yeah, this style of offense, you've already noted it, John. It can chew on a clock pretty good. But the problem is when you start getting those kind of chunks, you don't have as much clock to chew because you're not running that many plays.
Zach Larrier is back at quarterback. Here. Sidesteps a man, spins off another, and just runs out of room. He is able to weave to the 21, gets 4.
He was 2 yards deep when he made the first guy miss. Watch this. Defense, nice job. You get across, you make him dodge, That's 4 yards. That's a 4-yard gain when he should have been for a loss of 2, just because his quickness couldn't be corralled.
Here's a 38-yard field goal attempt from DePore, who connected from 37 earlier. Force into the 40s. He drills it.
Yeah, no such problems on the combination. When I say the combination, when you have a field goal, it's snap, hold, and kick, and all 3 were right on the money for Troy Calhoun's field goal unit. That's a lot harder than it looks.
You know, Randy, you asked Troy Calhoun this week to describe the year, and he said it's a year like no other. And the chief reason for that, they had such limited experience. It was less than double-digit players that had double-digit snaps in multiple games. So many unknowns in a program that's built on known commodities, as all academy play is.
Yeah, and as I've noted earlier, on top of that, we've talked a lot about this offensive line. You've had 4 different guys start at tackles. You've had 4 different guys start at guard. And you've had 3 different starters at center. And there have been years here, they've had really good lines where only 5 guys have played, maybe 6 in an entire season. So this is about a program, the strength of the program, and the strength of the coaching in this program.
Wave by Noel Williams. A 9-play, 52-yard drive that consumed over 5.5 minutes. And the fullbacks have emerged. Roberts, Emmanuel accounted for 45 of the 52 yards in the drive. They are now just working that clock, as you pointed out. Fullback dive, fullback dive.
And whether it's been Michelle, Emmanuel, whoever, you line up deep, you've got that extra look at the blocking in front of you.
Rogers play fake. He's harassed. Flips it out. Oh, what a hit. Corbin Taylor is there as the ball arrives. Only a yard. Mendiola Jensen gets the grab.
Yeah, you look at these defensive backs, and I've talked a lot about the linebackers and how they tackle. The defensive backs do an unbelievable job on filling. Listen to this. You hear that? That's why the term is always, they got good wood on that one. For you baseball guys.
Home run. Rogers slinging. And that's knocked down Trey Bugg III, who leads the team in pass breakups. He is a darn good player who said this week Troy Calhoun's emphasis was that the last couple of times Air Force had played UNLV at Air Force, they found themselves down 4 scores at halftime. Said you got to get off to a good start, and boy, did they.
Yeah, they sure did. And, you know, let's give credit where credit is due. They got off to that good start because UNLV had given them the breaks they gave them. They got 17 points off turnovers in that first half.
2 of 7 on 3rd down. Pressure up the gut. Rogers into contact. Oh, and Jordan Jackson leads the way. Some late help from Christopher Herrera and another sack. Rogers is slow to get up. 5 sacks for the Air Force defense.
Jordan Jackson, number 94, coming from the inside of that defense.
Air Force number 11 is underway.
Jackson does a really nice job on that game. He was at end, came all the way around inside. But the end result is something that Rogers is getting familiar with, and that's an Air Force defensive lineman getting a pretty good shot on him.
And Jackson with over 25 tackles for loss, 14.5 sacks in his career. Speedwalk, the fair catch on the Ben Silva punt. Air Force is doing a bit of everything today. And Jackson really fired up, a man who could profile to play at the next level. And he has so much that he's accomplished, but Troy Calhoun was quick to point out that none of his gaudy numbers quantify how many blocks he's eaten up, how many times he's getting double or triple teamed. They're chipping it back against him as he's moved all over that line.
Yeah, with this linebacker unit is really strong. Their linebacker coach Brian Nord does a really good job. The way they attack, the way they read, the way they scrape, and you can do that because the D-line eats up the number of blocks that it does.
There's Roberts slipping past the first man, helmet off for one of the Rebels. Looks like Beaudry lost it there. Gain of 5 to the 41.
But Beaudry will have to come out of the game.
And he jogs off. And they're going to let the second slip away on the quarter. Air Force is quite content with that gaudy lead to head to the fourth. Troy Calhoun told his team, soak in playing at Falcon Stadium. They try to send the seniors out the right way, and through 3, they have been dominant. The third quarter, even more so, belonged to the Falcons. (41-7), Air Force. Nova, the mascot in training, just 1 year old, named to her post in the early stage of last season. Getting some work in, seeing the sights here at Falcon Stadium. Second highest elevation in the FBS, trailing only Wyoming. And very high heights can be seen by that bird and by this Air Force offense and defense. They have both been dominant. Go right to the ground, where they have gotten huge surges in that push up front. There's 7 for Emmanuel Michelle's, had 100 today, but winces after that Trey Kane hit.
Enough yardage for an Air Force.
Yeah, this will be a day that impresses a lot of people in this Mountain West, and this is the perfect way for these seniors to go out here at the Air Force Academy in their football career.
29 players, 14 senior managers. Senior class has gone 28-15 entering today, including a bowl win over Washington State in 2019. And the plunge for Owen Burke. Armed Forces football proudly supported by Serve Pro. 3 yards there for Burke, who only had 1 carry on his year entering today. The same for the man who started at tailback, John Lee Eldridge. And next man up is more than a philosophy. It's been a way of life this year for the Falcons.
And it's been no matter who you play, and it hasn't been in games that were 41-7 predominantly. Every one of their big games, they've had to play inexperienced players against those opponents.
And Burke again in at fullback, so maybe Roberts done for the day. Burke off that right side. First hit doesn't take him. Adam Plant knocks him down a yard short of the first.
Pretty common theme, though, when you get 5 yards down the field before somebody's putting a hit on you. Another good block on the offensive line side up front.
Well, needing a yard on third down, this feels about as automatic as it comes in college football.
Yeah, it's like 3rd and short, 4th and short, or 4th and goal. Think they'll run it?
I think there's a chance. And there's the keeper, and there's more than a yard and a half. That's good for a first down. Warren Bryan gets the yards. This Air Force team getting to 400 rushing yards on the day.
Coming into the game averaging 326 yards a game, leading the country in rushing. Will add to that total.
We got 413 today. There's Burke. Oh, nice pursuit. Bear hugged by Brennan Scott. He's done a much better job of late for the Rebels. He has shined per DC Peter Hansen in the last few weeks.
Specializing in doing what you just saw there. That's reading and reacting and filling and making things happen on their side of the ball.
It's only the second tackle for loss for UNLV. Scott leads the Rebels in tackles for loss on the season. Back to Burke. Man, he is shifty. Winman spills him at the 36, so he gets 6.
Nice job by Karras, the right tackle. Pretty good little block there by that whole right side of the offensive line, creating that hole along with the tight end. And that's a real difference in this offense. If you haven't seen Air Force, you know, through all these years as they've sort of evolved into this style, they were a typical option team. They didn't have tight ends. They'd bring in an extra offensive lineman. Now they actually have tight guys that play the position of tight end.
Right back to Burke, shielding the football. Pile of Rebels. So he gets a couple. Jalen Dixon, the redshirt freshman, was there. Beaudry as well. So here's 4th and 3 for an Air Force team that's one of the most aggressive and successful on 4th down in the country.
Yeah, you look at them through the course of the season, and that's something that jumps off the stat sheet at you. And it usually does. If you're a football guy, you look at rushing, you look at, you know, average yards per rush, you look at big plays, things like that. Suddenly you see a percentage on 4th down, you just say, 80 what?
Well, the Ole Miss has more tries. Toss play, another conversion. And Connor Carey gets the first.
And you convert a lot of 4th down plays for a very simple reason. You execute. And execution usually means routes and all kinds of other fancy stuff. But look at that offensive line and a number of big bodies out there in front of the running back.
This feels like a possession now where it's going to be a boa constrictor approach. They can possibly squeeze the life out of the quarter.
I was going to say, we just changed quarters a little while ago. Now they're calling a timeout. Maybe somebody's winded.
College football on CBS Sports Network is sponsored by Serve Pro, the #1 choice in cleanup and restoration. By Twisted Tea, keep it twisted. And by Coyote Tractor.
Hawk Wimmer among the 29 senior players recognized. Service assignments for some notable Falcons when they're done with their days at the academy, Randy. It's going to be years of service to our country.
My new favorite service assignment is Space Force Acquisitions.
We have a new quarterback. Jensen Jones is in under center. He is their 4th quarterback overall. The starter, Zeke Daniels, not playing today. Illness, non-COVID related. They get 3 yards here. Yeah, there are some new fields to explore as a graduate of the Air Force Academy. At least 5 years on active duty, 3 as inactive reserves after graduation, but it depends upon your position. If you're a pilot, it's more years of service.
And sometimes, I mean, with that amount of training and the amount they invest in you between the academy and your flight training, I would imagine you'd have to commit a bit more.
Keeper here, spinning off that first hit, and that's been a common theme today. You know, every ball carrier, it seems, for Air Force just spins and falls forward and gets a couple of yards.
Yeah, their yards after contact, you know, they're in the low 400s right now in yards rushing, and I would be willing to bet you 250 were after contact.
3rd and 5. Air Force has not attempted a pass yet today. They haven't gone a whole game without a pass attempt in almost a decade. Robinson on the fullback run doesn't get much. No fourth down. Give him a couple maybe.
A lot of substitutions as you'd expect. We've talked about the fourth quarterback and the different running backs and the wholesale changes now, not only at receivers but also in the offensive line for Air Force on this possession.
With Jensen Jones under center, Air Force lines up on fourth down and called it 3. Toss play to Carey. He's got the blocks. They've got another first down.
Yeah, you get those quick flip type sweeps, those speed sweeps. It's all about bodies on bodies and a couple of slow getting off the ground UNLV Rebels. But you get bodies on bodies, the running backs get an opportunity to pick their hole and pick their sort of almost a defender they want to run into and try to run over. Good blocking up front, and then the rest of it's all by the running back.
Naki Faina among the men slower to get up, so Carey got 9. Now it's goal to go. 14th play of the longest drive Air Force has had today. Quarterback keep. Unyielding, reaching, and over for a touchdown. The fourth quarterback, Jensen Jones, goes 8 yards for a score on a day that has been overwhelmingly Air Force.
Yeah, on any given play, John, the line gets you the first 3. And they get Jensen the first 3. Or Jones, I'm sorry, the first 3. And then he gets the rest of them by himself. Yards after contact. Thy name is Air Force.
An overwhelming attack. There is a downed Rebel. Slow to get up, surrounded by athletic trainers. There is Naki Faina, who was slow to get up just a few plays ago. Had been a starter earlier in the year, had not started since San Jose State. And you can see him clutching and grimacing in pain right there, center right of the screen. Windman put his hand on him. And look at that right foot. This is a challenging offense to physically defend, and there is a cumulative effect to that.
That's the key term. When you play a option style offense, they're in stances that look like track stances. And the offensive line is coming off the ball. They are going to hit you. The backs are going to hit you. The running backs are going to hit you. I mean, heck, and some of these option teams, the quarterbacks are going to hit you. So you get done playing them, you are bruised. You need the ice bath when you play an option team.
Point after is good.
Kick is good.
Air Force is going deep. On senior day, everyone is playing and scoring.
We take a look at today's.
Coming up next, CBS Sports Network heads to Florida. Tournament hoops play the Emerald Coast Classic. Tip begins with LSU squaring off against Penn State. Oregon State follows against Wake Forest. Darius Days just named the SEC Player of the Week. He dropped 30, a career high in his season opener, averaging 19 per for Will Wade's Tigers. Air Force running like crazy. The Falcons are closing in on 1,000 yards rushing over 2 games. Their multiple overtime thriller against Nevada and today's drubbing of UNLV. Noel Williams, return man, set up deep.
So easy to say they've run right through the state of Nevada. North to south, east to west, pick a direction.
Now they have owned the Silver State. And as we take a look at our Serve Pro first responder.
I'd say this defense for Air Force, as much as we've spent time talking about their offense, how about the job this defense, just top to bottom, whether it's the D-line, the linebackers, the defensive backs, This is a well-coached, disciplined defense for Troy Calhoun.
Williams, the deep back. Able to slip through a couple of would-be hitters. And the chuck wagon off to the races. Touchdown saved. What effort from James Jones IV. A senior who normally stars on special teams saved a score, 73 on that run.
Yeah, this is the kind of play that Charles Williams, he'll eventually make this. If you let up, if your guys aren't playing that intense style of football Air Force has played, that's the risk you put up.
And they go quick, right back to it and into the end zone. Touchdown, UNLV. Williams' second score of the day. His Mountain West lead grows to 15 on the ground.
Now the backups are in for the defense for Air Force, and not quite the sting and penetration that the starters were getting, and Charles Williams and company make them pay.
And he now has 137 yards on the ground. His 15th career game with 105 this season. Point after is pure.
Well, it's something that Charles Williams has done against multiple opponents. Utah State, go down the list. You give him a crack and give him some open air, he's going to make you pay.
(48-14). Both scores for UNLV belong to Charles Williams. How are your Keys holding up?
Well, not too bad. I mean, you look at feature the work truck. They did, but they didn't attack the ball very well with all those total yards. Total yards is the misnomer. That should just say rushing. They diesel grind, 454 rushing. And can they beat you with plan B? No, because you sacked them 5 times, and you did a pretty doggone good job turning them over with turnovers.
UNLV set to kick. And Connor Carey, nice job filling in on some touches on offense, set up to return. Send this one a little deep enough. So Air Force with 6:18 to go has a realistic shot, Randy, at 500 yards rushing today.
Yeah, a very realistic shot. Short list of number of times that Troy Calhoun or even Fisher DeBerry's offenses have rushed for 500 yards. And you've got plenty of time here, and your MO has been to hold on to the ball and be methodical and rush it. They really don't have to give the ball back if they don't want to.
They have their 4th quarterback, Jensen Jones, in. Here's the carry. And Connor Carey gets to the 32, gain of 7. Adam Plant the stop.
2nd and 3.
And UNLV does have 3 timeouts, but granted the score and sportsmanship decor, they're essentially paralyzed here.
Yeah, you wouldn't think of them actually using those timeouts. And neither will probably Air Force in this situation. I mean, part of the instructions are pound the ball and stay in bounds in this situation and just take the clock down. Every play clock goes to 1.
Shield the football, shoulder pinball off a couple of men to the 38. Gain of 6, that's good for a first. Tyson Player makes the stop.
See that play clock right there, the 30, 29, 28. Watch that as this thing goes on. That's part of that sort of boa constrictor effect, John. You talked about the way they squeeze the clock. And they practice this as a team. I don't care if you're the first team offense or the 4th team offense. You practice running this style of offense.
That is Jet Harris, listed as a linebacker, who's getting these carries at fullback. He's doing darn well with one of the great names for someone playing at Air Force.
Yeah, Jet Harris. I mean, if you're a Jet Harris and you're listed as a linebacker, it should be a natural transition to be a fullback in this offense. You both have the same job. You lean forward and you fill holes.
And it is that same attacking mentality, right? There really is a kinship there.
Very much so. That's why you see so many, high schools around America, with the great game of football being what it is. How many kids in high school are a fullback for the team, and on defense they play middle linebacker? That's a natural.
Jensen Jones weaving a path as another first down.
Did you see him put the brakes on?
And try to get down on that backside.
He saw that sideline coming and he went, Coach said not to go out of bounds and stop the clock. I better sit down. Watch the very end of this. I want yards. Oh, nope, I want to get down. Let me get down. They wouldn't let him.
He gets a dozen. He is the fourth quarterback. And there's just such a sense of cohesion and group identity on both sides of the football with this team.
Yeah, that goes back to those guys up front. I've talked about their line coach, Steve Labatsky, and the job he's done. That O-line just keeps blocking and doing effective things.
Toss play to C.J. McNeil. Slips out of a hitter and gets angled out of bounds. The second and third efforts have piled and piled.
Yeah, it's simple to say. We've seen a lot of it out of UNLV's offense where the Air Force defender has been there kind of in similar situations, but he's made that tackle. In a lot of cases, these defenders, they're going to get a shot. You're going to get a chance to get a shoulder on them, but they're not making the tackles in those situations. And there's your difference.
And there is 500 yards all on the ground for Air Force. With that carry, they are at 500.
Yeah, you can look that up anywhere you want. That doesn't happen very often.
In a conference game, Plant able to get a hand on Jensen Jones, and he still plummets forward, gets to the 24, gain of 4.
Remember, we started this drive about 6.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And I mentioned that play clock. Every time they've snapped the ball, that play clock has gotten down to 2 or 1 before the ball is snapped. That's how you eat a clock, literally, in big, gigantic bites.
How about this? Air Force did not have time of possession at halftime, and they're going to get to about their second in the country average of 36 minutes on the game. Toss play. Shoulder down. C.J. McNeil gets nearly to the 20, gain of about 3.5.
And it's automatic in these situations. As you see the replay here, nice blocking outside. Defense, good contain. But there's 2 more plays coming. Not like you're going to kick another field goal, I would think, at this point. At this point, I would fully expect 2 more running plays out of Air Force.
Randy, the math right now is that UNLV is only going to have had the ball for less than 4 minutes in the entire second half. 4 minutes.
Well, it's been a lot of ballet football.
First
1, 2, 3, kick.
That has been pretty much it. And UNLV is building blocks for its future. They're going to end their year with 2 wins and 10 losses. And I think, honestly, there are reasons for projections to feel better. They are better than what that record is to some extent.
Well, Marcus Royal told us just the other day, starting after the flight home, recruiting.
Yep.
They are going to be recruiting, self-evaluation, recruiting. They're going to spend so much time on the road looking at tomorrow's football players for UNLV, and that's going to be the key for them from this day forward.
A dominant day for Air Force. Troy Calhoun leads his alma mater to its 9th win of the year. The Falcons conclude their regular season at 9-3, 6-2 with the Mountain West, technically tied atop the division. They'll lose the tiebreak to Utah State, but they shine on Senior Day and pummel UNLV.
And the hopes are still alive. I mean, they're going to lead the country in rushing. And the hopes are still alive to get to their 10th win. And 10 wins in any season are gigantic. But after the last couple of seasons we've had, to back that up with a 10-win season when you're running for these many yards, it's just an amazing thing to watch. Kudos to Troy Calhoun and his entire staff.
89 points for Air Force in the last 2 games. A thriller against Nevada, a rout of UNLV. And unfortunately, no students in the stands. It is holiday break, so the cadet wing is splintered around the country in their respective homes. And yet, since the Mountain West went to divisional play and Air Force has been home on this weekend annually, they are undefeated without a significant advantage having that student section in the stands. They find a way to find that resolve, and they owned this game literally from the opening kick.
A lot of heart and a lot of emotion for Senior Day.
The alma mater, one of the grand traditions in the Service Academy game. Air Force wins it 48-14. We will step aside. We'll be back with more to wrap it up. Falcons fly on Senior Day.